Hi guys, I'm Sarah and I'm here today with a whole heap of information from my wonderful Facebook group members about using your leftover food. Now obviously I wanted to do a chat about this because if you can make a meal, or you know, even if it's just lunch or a snack or whatever, with food that you have already got, obviously you're not throwing it out and you're going to save money. Obviously I've got my own ideas about this, but I put it to the people in my Facebook group and I got inundated. I got screeds of them, so thank you so much guys. That was absolutely brilliant feedback. And I will be demonstrating a lot of the stuff that I do on a regular basis. We quite often get leftovers for different reasons. Sometimes you just don't eat as much as you think you're going to eat. Sometimes I actually make a little bit too much of one element on purpose, knowing that I can repurpose it and it's nice and cheap, only having to cook something once, or it saves a bit of time to pre-cook something for another night's dinner. Sometimes the kids are getting fussy, they don't eat what's on their plate, in which case they don't realise, but they usually end up eating it in a different format the following night. A big thing that people liked to repurpose was roast meat. Of course, the likes of chicken or a nice big bit of beef, pork, lamb, whatever, you know, you serve it as a roast dinner, however you want to have it the first night, and then you've often got leftover bits. So last night we had roast beef for dinner. We've got some left over, not a huge amount, so I decided fried rice would be a good idea for this. Of course, the good thing about fried rice as well is that you can use also any leftover veggies you've got. So I've actually got some cabbage that needs using up, which I normally wouldn't put in fried rice, but I'm going to today. Got some broccoli that needs using, so you know, win-win-win. Heaps of leftovers can go in fried rice. It can be chicken, it can be pork, whatever, it can be veggie. Now, the first thing that springs to mind, of course, is sandwiches. You know, who doesn't love a leftover roast meat sandwich for their lunch the next day? Yum! But also, you could make it into more of a secondary dinner type thing. You can make, I've got a recipe for making Subway-style bread rolls. Fill it with that, some salad or coleslaw or whatever. Absolutely yummy. Those things are really filling. That will quite happily do us for dinner. Or you could make some wraps or tortillas, do something like that with it for either lunch or dinner. Chuck them in some bread with some barbecue sauce, a bit of cheese, make toasted sandwiches. Somebody said they like chopping it up and making a couscous salad. You could turn it into a curry, a hash type thing, like fry it up with some other veggies. If you've got like leftover roast potatoes, that goes nicely in a hash as well. Some onions, fried egg on top. Oh yeah, now we're talking. Of course you can make some pastry. I always make my own pastry. Turn them into pies, quiches, whatever. If you haven't got a pie maker, which I don't have, I usually just go with pasties because you don't have to really shape them. Just, you know, put them in one half, fold them over, just cook them on a baking tray. It's really easy to make your own pastry, so that is far more economical than buying pastry sheets. Somebody said their roast lamb with veggies, if they've got meat and veggies left over, even potato, smush them together, they can get turned into a cottage pie or something like that. If you're running a bit low on it, add in some extra veggies or some chickpeas or something. Bulk it out, some more gravy into the mix, you know, mashed potato on top. Leftover roast chicken, somebody else told me they love doing pasta meal, a chicken pasta with the leftover roast. Or they throw the leftover chicken into their slow cooker with spices and tomatoes and use it as a chicken nacho mix. Chicken's also great in a pie as well if you've got leftover stuffing. Oh, put that in the pie as well. Chicken, stuffing, gravy, veg, all in a pie. Epic. Of course you can reuse it in a casserole, so just put any of your cooked meat in there, any of your leftover veggies, whatever. Add some more into the mix, because of course casserole you'd normally slow cook it over the day. Maybe the pre-cooked stuff just add in towards the end. No one will be any the wiser. And I quite like this. They freeze all their scrappy little end bits of meat. So chicken, ham, beef, lamb, whatever. Then you add it to pasta. Just add it to pasta, random meat pasta meal. I guess make whatever kind of sauce you think you would go well with that. Or the other thing is pizza, just random meat pizza. just make a lovely tomato sauce base or something like that. Speaking of which, tomato soup. I often make my own tomato soup because it is so yummy. And I add a whole heap of other veggies in with that. So of course, any other leftover veggies that the kids didn't eat. One of my daughter has an aversion to peas. And so if she left a whole heap of peas on her plate, that's fine. It goes into the tomato soup. And she has no idea. It's great. So anyway, the tomato soup, I actually use that as a sauce to put on pizza base. I also use it as a pasta sauce. What I like about that is that, especially with the pizza base, because you don't get a lot of veggie content when you make pizzas, but of course the soup I make, it's got onions, it's got greenery, it's got carrots. The predominant flavour is of course the tomatoes. So that, no one really notices when you chuck other stuff in doing it that way. But it just means that put a nice thick layer of sauce on the base of your pizza, you're getting lots of veggies in there too. Now I mentioned a casserole or stews. If you've actually got some of your casserole or stew left over, of course that is absolutely a perfect filling for a pie. Somebody actually said they've got a pie maker and they know that each of their pie maker fillings takes exactly half a cup. And so if they've got anything left over, stew, casserole, anything they think would go nicely in a pie, they actually freeze it in half cup portions. And so every now and then they have a big pie making day, they get these half cup portions, put it in the pastry and cook it in their pie and just make a whole heap of random leftover pies for people to take with their lunches or whatever. I think that is an awesome idea. I love that one. Someone's actually mentioned soup as well. Of course you can add leftover stuff into soup, stews, casseroles, stuff like that. There is nothing to say you can't turn that into a soup. Add some of that like dried soup mix, some lentils, like some of that King's soup mix type stuff that's got all the dried goodies in with it. Chuck that in there with a whole heap of water, maybe some stock or something, and some extra veggies and stuff, make a really nice soup. Now roast veggies, you can make a roast veggie salad the next day. Of course, if you've got an abundance of eggs, roast veggies, especially potatoes, go really nicely in a frittata. Make a nice big frittata or a quiche. Pre-cooked veggies, of course, you can put them in a quiche. This is an absolutely beautiful way of using leftover roast veggies. I discovered that because a couple of weeks back I'd made a whole heap of roast veggies to go with our dinner, and my husband ended up having to work late. He was in town, one of the kids had a bit of a crooked tummy so didn't eat much, so I had a whole heap of roast veggies left and I ended up just pulverising them, cooking up a bit of extra pumpkin and making a pumpkin soup. Well, it was more, I called it roast veggie soup, but it was beautiful. It was so nice. So roast veggies, absolutely. Grind them all up, chuck them in a soup. Normally when I'm doing pumpkin soup anyway, I roast the pumpkin. So it was like I already had it already done, ready to go. So that's going to be tonight's dinner, but I'm doing this for a reason, because I will show you what to do with leftover pumpkin soup that is epic. Someone's also mentioned pizza in the way of roast veggies. So any pre-cooked roast veggies, chuck it on a pizza. I mean, you could even have a complete roast dinner pizza, couldn't you? If you've just got bits from the dinner left over, bit of meat, bit of veg, awesome. Put it all on a pizza. That, it's just a way of stretching it out. Someone else mentioned something else, eggy omelettes. They make 2-minute noodle omelette with veggies added. That's an interesting idea, I like that. If you've got leftover veggies though to put in like a soup, add in some 2-minute noodles. 2-minute noodles, cook up the veggies with the noodles, add in the stock, the flavour sachets that come with the noodles, call it noodle veggie soup, nice and cheap, easy option. Somebody else told me that her end of life veggies at the end of the week, so I guess like the day before you do the shopping or something, they get steamed every Sunday, pureed, cooked up with garlic, tomatoes and a puree, and to make homemade pasta sauce. So similar to what I do with my homemade tomato soup, whiz it all up, chuck it in with like some fettuccine or something, yummy. And she has also said she takes the uneaten veggies off her kids' plate the night before and does that. There is no shame in that. Seriously, I do that all the time. Okay, so that pumpkin soup, it did not get all consumed yesterday. I was sure to keep some to one side because it makes the best curry sauce. Curried sausages, that soup, chop up some onions, chop up some green leafy stuff. Hey, if you've got any other leftover veggies, chop them up, throw it in. Makes a really nice curry, lots of rice. Feel free to overdo the rice, because I'll show you something in a minute that you can do with leftover rice. See, this is a roll-on effect. I've got some leftover mashed potato from last night. It's not a lot. Now, this is great for making fritters with, but obviously I've only got a scoop full there. So I'm also going to do something a bit weird, and I haven't tried this myself before. I'm going to incorporate this bit of leftover mashed potato with leftover fried rice that I made, that you'll have seen me make the other night with the leftover roast beef. One of the kids got fussy the other night, didn't eat all her fried rice, and I had it left in the pan anyway. I was going to send it with my husband to work for his lunch, but without thinking I just made him sandwiches because it's often just the go-to thing. So I've still got this left over, so I'm going to combine some of this with the mashed potato. See, this is the joy of leftovers. I could be creating something amazing here. So I've got leftover fried rice with mashed potato. I'm going to chuck a bit of flour in with it, an egg, and I'm going to smush it up and make it into fritters. I'm going to chuck in about the same amount of fried rice mix as there is potato. I'm not measuring this at all, I'm just throwing a handful of flour into the mix there, and 1 egg. Of course, the other thing you can do with mashed potato that I never thought to mention before was gnocchi, because gnocchi is literally mashed potato and flour, as I'm mixing the flour, and I just thought of that. So yeah, gnocchi, brilliant. Somebody said the next day, roast potatoes, they make it into fried smashed parmesan potatoes. That sounds epic. If you've got leftover boiled potatoes, and I often do this, if I've got leftover boiled potatoes, beautiful in a frittata, because I always use pre-boiled potatoes in my frittata. So especially if the chickens are laying and I've got lots of eggs, that is awesome. So there we go, serve them up with a bit of salad, bit of sauce on top maybe. I'm just dying to have a taste of these, see what this randomness turned out like. Oh, hot but yummy. It needs a little bit of tomato sauce or barbecue sauce or something on it maybe. Or as I said, hey, just turned random leftovers into a whole new meal, so done. Now when it comes to rice, whenever I am doing a rice dish like curry, I always make a little bit extra. I mentioned my pumpkin soup, leftover. If I've got leftover pumpkin soup, the next day it almost always becomes curried sausages. It is so yummy. My kids, they actually prefer that to just the pumpkin soup on its own. But then I take the next step. So the rice that was left over from the curried sausages, I always make a bit more than what I think we'll need on purpose, because I make rice pudding with it. It's not quite the same as making rice pudding from scratch with short grain rice, but it is still really nice. And especially the kids absolutely love it when I make rice pudding pots to go in their lunchbox. So, you know, I just put them in little pot containers because I don't tend to make a huge amount. But the thing is, with rice pudding, a small amount goes a really long way. You put quite a bit of extra milk in with it, and it expands out, it thickens up, you add some corn flour. Really, really super yummy. Somebody said risotto, if they've made a risotto, they put it into balls and fry it up with some cheese, And apparently that makes really, really yummy. But I imagine maybe roll it in some breadcrumbs, that might be nice too. But yeah, and balls, cheese. I suppose it's kind of like making a type of a fritter with rice risotto. Someone has said that a couple of days before her big shop, she actually makes a rice-based meal and cooks too much rice on purpose, so that any leftovers that she's got throughout the week just automatically go straight into a fried rice dish. So yeah, she just collects her leftovers from the week, puts them all together, has some extra rice there, boom, mixes them all together, fried rice. I guess depending on what you eat during the week, it'd be different every week too, so I bet you'd actually come out with some nice flavours. And as I say, sometimes you end up getting leftovers on purpose so that you can do that sort of thing. But on a similar sort of note, stir fries. You know, stir fries, add some nice sauce. Somebody, actually a couple of people said they use leftover macaroni cheese. One said they just bake it into a muffin tin, just shape it into a muffin tin, bake it again with a bit of extra cheese on top and put it in their kids' lunch boxes, which I think is a neat idea. Also mix a bit of egg in with it, mix it up some egg, and then roll it in breadcrumbs and fry it. Fried macaroni cheese balls. I guess they could be either warm or a lunchbox type filler. Now, mince. A few people asked me for ideas with mince, but here's the thing with mince dishes. Leftover mince can be turned into just about anything mince dish related, and there are so many of them. Someone said they turn leftover spaghetti bolognese into pies or nachos, just add some chili beans in with it. If I've got like some savoury type mince left over, I might just add a couple of cans of baked beans and some extra veg or something and just smush it up and have it on toast. Of course, any leftover nacho mix, make nacho pies. You know, rules are out the window here. I don't care, nachos is not a pie. Nachos can be a pie. You can smush them up into burger patties, you know, add an egg, add some breadcrumbs, make them into burger patties. You could even freeze them. Turn it into a shepherd's pie or a lasagna. You could add some sausage meat in with your pre-cooked mince, some veggies, make a meatloaf. Someone actually said they, at the start of the week, and this is something that I used to do actually, I think before we had kids even, I used to, every now and then I'd do a big batch, back when mince was really super duper cheap, I'd do a big batch of savoury mince at the start of the week. And then I'd just turn it into different dinners. Leftover bread. Now, especially if you make your own bread, you know, you get all the little sort of end bits that are really annoying. Now, one thing you can do that I absolutely do sometimes is get a grater, actually grate the bread, and that's a great way to make breadcrumbs. Great, see what I did there? And put them in a bag in the freezer. Now when you freeze breadcrumbs, they're quite free flowing, so you can just literally grab handfuls. If you're doing like a pasta bake or something, want some lovely breadcrumbs on top, perfect, just straight from the freezer, sprinkle them over. It works brilliantly, never buy breadcrumbs. But what I'm actually doing today, because I've got quite a bit of these end bits of bread I've been saving, and our chickens have started laying, yay, so I've got plenty of eggs to use, I'm going to make some bread pudding with these. And people also gave a whole heap of just sort of general tips on using leftovers. So one thing they did that I often do over summer as well, and that's have a platter dinner. They said that Saturday night in the summer is platter day. They heat up any leftovers they've got and just put it on a big platter, supplement it with crackers, veggie sticks, you know, maybe make some hummusy dip or something like that. Totally random, and that's just dinner. Sometimes some of the best dinners come from things like that. Someone said when their kids were small, they always had an ice cream container in the fridge for any dinner leftovers. And on the nights when they had rugby practice, they'd get it out, they'd chop up any meat. The rest of the stuff they'd kind of mash together whatever was in there and then fry it as a huge patty. So they'd have this big patty with some fried egg, some tomato sauce, barbecue sauce, whatever on top. And it was just one meal a week that they didn't have to plan for You know, it was an easy rugby night meal, just leftover patties. Someone else said they always, when they have a pasta dish and they've got some left over, you can freeze leftover pasta. I've never tried freezing cooked pasta, but I have heard it works well. And they said on the nights when they're having a dinner and their daughter's feeling fussy, she doesn't want to eat it, she'll quite happily just eat the plain pasta with a bit of ham and some carrot sticks. Hey, there's nothing wrong with what I call the odd Mickey Mouse dinner like that. Of course, there's the good old, you know, just freeze leftovers. Just freeze them, and then if you're having a lazy night, you've got an extra dinner there, or you've got something to supplement. Someone else actually mentioned with their pie maker that instead of putting pastry lids on the pies, if she's got mashed potato left over, she'll put the mashed potato on. Of course, I'm guessing you don't close the lid on that, but you just leave it open to cook. Just take them out and brown them under the grill or something. Somebody else has said focaccia. Focaccia bread's been on my list for ages. Stuff to try. Seriously, my list is ridiculous. The list I've got of stuff to try making. But focaccia bread is on there. Apparently that is epic for putting leftovers on it. A bit like a pizza. Anything left over, meat, veggie, whatever. Throw it in a nice big focaccia bread, bake it up. Someone else said they just eat their leftovers for breakfast. They had potato salad for breakfast the other day, and I'm all about that. Tortillas again. Bake different types of leftovers in between tortillas to make them like sandwiches. And even if it's from several different nights worth of leftovers, just make a variety and have a tortilla stack. Just like chop them up, put them in the middle, and just grab random pieces of tortilla sandwich. Somebody else said they do that with leftover chili. They roll it into a tortilla, add some cheese on top, bake it up, it's beautiful. I have a recipe for fruit peel muffins that are actually really good. I just remembered that off the top of my head, and I haven't made them for ages, and I don't know why, because the kids absolutely loved them. They used orange peel and banana skin. You want to give them a really good clean before you use them, because they can often be sprayed with stuff. But they were actually really nice, believe it or not. Fruit, of course. Leftover fruit, any fruit you've got going off, baking. Chuck them all into baking and then freeze the baking. So, you know, I've got endless recipes for throwing fruit in random things. I'm really hoping you got some inspiration from this. As I say, share your recipes, share your ideas in the Facebook group. That's awesome. Throw them down below. Love getting comments on my videos. Yeah, let me know if you've got any other different ideas for how you use your leftovers. And we will catch you next week. See ya.